Greetings fellow Earth enjoyers, I welcome you to uninstall real life. Sadly Riot has taken the undisputed best game mode from us once again. Nonetheless I have collected enough data to accurately rank all items in Earth. I know why you are here. You looked up a tier list and duoed with your friend on Yumi but still lost. But how? You picked the S+ tier character. Not to worry, I am here. Let's maximize that win rate for all you tryhards so that next Earth you get that well-deserved penta. But first let's set the relevant baseline in Earth. Plus 300 ability haste, summoner spell haste, and item haste. Plus 25% tenacity. Plus 60 movement speed. Bonus attack speed is doubled on ranged champions, 1.5 times for melee champions. Critical strikes deal 25% additional damage. Champions that can have mana convert 35% of bonus mana into bonus health, and 100% of bonus mana regeneration into bonus health regeneration. Which is just as irrelevant as Aurelian Sol. As well as the obvious no mana and energy costs, also important is the heal embargo. Direct healing effects are only 50% effective at the beginning of the game, increasing by 1% every 30 seconds, up to 100% effective at 25 minutes. Shield overload, non-ultimate shields strength are reduced by 30%. What this means is as ability haste, healing, shielding and mana are wasted gold. While item actives, attack speed and crit are king. Sadly I was unable to include the new pre-season 12 items. I will update the list as soon as I can. With that let's begin with the official season 11 Earth item tier list. Don't worry, I am a random person on the internet so you can take my word as fact. Disclaimer, uninstall real life and all partners and associates take no responsibility for any games, and if following my advice I will take full credit for all wins. Abyssal Mask. Stat-wise same as the base game, but it scales with CC, therefore also ability haste, and with earth damage being slightly higher than normal, a 15% increase is nothing to scoff at. Solid B tier. Anathema's Chains. Gets hurt by not being useful if you don't build tank items. But 30% damage reduction is premium, as usually one member of the enemy team goes 20-0 and decides to show you what good game design is. Quite the spectacle, sadly only in black and white. Interesting is the tenacity reduction. Because of the bonus tenacity in Earth it will always be usable. Situational, so C tier. Banshee's Veil is a strong item but it is hurt by its stats. A tier P is okay, but the 10 ability haste, as well as resistance, is bringing reduced results when the enemy gets his minute 13 void staff, but the active spell shield every 10 seconds redeems it. Have fun landing a hook blitz. Whoops, nice ult malfight. A solid low A tier. Black Cleaver is bad, just bad. Considerable against that one guy who builds full tank in Earth. D tier. What is this thing? That is supposed to be an item. F for I forget the name. Bork. Incredible item, shreds all these health stackers. The lifesteal isn't as good early, but it gives 50% attack speed, as well as the passive having a reduced cooldown, slowing them for 2 seconds on a 5-second cooldown. Have fun trying to kite now. Stronger tier. Bloodthirster seems bad on paper and is just as bad in practice. The crit is nice, but building this pre 20 minutes is a waste. And the shield is paper thin, so don't even try it. C tier. Sup item, get that weak beta shit outta here instant. F tier. Chempunk Chains Ward is not noteworthy. Grievous wounds have reduced effectiveness pre 25 minutes anyways, outclassed by Mortal Reminder. C tier. Chemtech Putrifier, same item but worse. D tier. Cosmic Drive bad, has slight use in a full CDR meme build, but outside of that D tier. Dead Man's Plate good in combination with Ghost Cleanse. Not really affected by Earth, but honestly just a mediocre item in general. The nerfs really killed this one. Low D. Death's Dance, the D Anathemas falls into the same category, suboptimal if you don't have the health to back it up, though combining the heal on takedown with Triumph can come in clutch. C tier. Demonic Embrace. Difficult, the burn is nice especially with Rylai's slow, but we are playing Earth damage over time usually doesn't cut it when the 6 item Master Yi comes for you after he decided being visible for less than a millisecond is unnecessary, or average Quiana gameplay. Divine Sunder, a top of the line 200 years. This baby will teach you what good game design is. You haven't seen balance until witness an Nasus or Trundle pricking this thing 2 times a second. The item effect is so good it easily makes up for the stat weakness, but it isn't that good if you can't abuse it optimally, and at times it has bugged when spammed too hard. Nonetheless, right at the top. Duskblade, another item that gets boosted by its passive. They can't kill you if they can't see you. Great with other effects like EQ to delete counterplay from the game. Higher tier. As with so little armor being built, lethality is always welcome. Eclipse falls into the same boat as Duskblade, expects the item effect is slightly weaker. The shield every 3 seconds sounds broken in theory but fails to prove itself in practice, still mid-tier. Edge of Night. Godly, Banshees but better, our first S-tier candidate. Essence Reaver, tricky one who deserves attention for enabling big and juicy dopamine crits but gets outshined by Sunderer and passive-wise half an item. Lower tier. Everfrost. Pretty nutty with the active but 10 seconds reaches the limit of usable more than once in a fight, still with the right champion, debatable S tier. Force of Nature is another one of these forgotten items and doesn't really have a place. While not being bad, it's not good either, D tier. Frostfire Gauntlet, literally bootleg Ash, cheesy yes, good? Maybe. Leave it in low B. Frozen Heart is just really worse Randuin's and doesn't really have any reason to be built. Unless you find that one game with multiple non-critting auto-attackers, then you can fish this thing out of the dumpster. Next up is Gale Force, basically a wet dream, has everything you could ever want: crit, attack speed, broken active. Probably cures cancer as well, the kind you get from playing against Morgana and Lux. Stoneplate, another one of those tank items that fails to deliver. The active yes is a shield, but realistically it's so big it doesn't make a difference. This item could be god tier, but the cooldown is just too long to be a twice in a fight use. C tier. Gore Drinker, the by-the-book definition of overpowered, since then dethroned of its top place as of the nerf, but still, it's Gore Drinker every 3 seconds. Do I really have to say any more? GU is a decent build since URF likes to ditch out 50-second death timers pre 15, though 100 seconds can be long between uses. And nothing is really going to stop them from clapping your cheeks again. Rage Blade makes me reminisce about Sanguine Blade, who still remembers that item. Me and the 3 other players who built it. 90% attack speed from one item puts stat checking on a new level. But I think I don't have to say building this reduces your damage by 25%. Right? D tier. Sextech Rocket Belt, basically a P-Gale Force except with a lower cooldown on dash. Horizon Focus, yes and no. Big damages yes, overpowered no. I guess about B tier. Hullbreaker, synonymous with Cyan and speedrun, good stats for the cost. Great game ender. A tier. Cringe Bow Yikes obviously gets cucked by the debuffs and has a long cooldown. Then again, imagine a universe where Shieldbug could proc twice per fight. Magnificent Riot, please add. Imperial Mandate. Yes. Infinity Edge, what more is there to say? Must buy third item for crit users. A tier. Suicide Pact, F tier. Kraken Slayer, Mr. OMG 8.0 attack speed in URF, WTF, must watch. Go to for attack speed and the lawnmower enjoyers. Liandry's. Funny enough, this item, for being overpowered in the base game, severely underperforms in comparison to the other mage items. Plus the stats are garbage. D tier. Lichbane. The forgotten little brother, technically more efficient than Essence Reaver, once again very champion reliant. Put it with Essence Reaver. Locket? Let's skip this one. F tier. Lord Doms is rather unnecessary, more of a counter build than a must include, not that gold efficient when you use it to penetrate steel caps. B tier. Ludens. Game breaking on the right champion, turns a bit heat rash into 3rd degree burns. Combine this with Demonic and Rylai's to assemble Exodia. Clear S. More of Malmortius, completely worthless just like the average Yasuo player. F. Magi's. Turns snowballing into avalanching even without Dark Seal being 300% gold efficient. Or more useless than my jungler in ranked. B. Mercurial Scimitar, the better one of the QSS items, get it when you need it. Lets you put the farter in front of the Morgana, tricky as it deserves S but requires decent timing. High A. Mikhail's all in all a worse QSS, put that on the Yumi and forget about it. C. Moonstone. This thing. It scares me. Can get incredibly toxic. Another on of these, put it on the sup and forget about it. B. Moralonomicon. The AP anti-heal item. Belongs with the rest, nothing to see here. Mortal Reminder. One of the rare cases where the item gets carried by its stats. Length's better than its peers. B tier. Manamura, certainly an interesting one, becomes decently stat efficient if combined with another mana item, still gets outshined by other items. C. Nash is putting 100% attack speed on one item. This is insane, adds some interesting hybrid damage options. There is an argument for A, but it just doesn't make it. Knavery Quick Blades has the potential to be god tier, haven't really found a way to abuse it correctly. Master Yi comes to mind here. There is no auto-attacking champion that can effectively weave in abilities in a way where deleting your cooldowns would grant you an even larger benefit. Night Harvester. Underwhelming when it comes to the mage items. It's not as bad as Liandry's but doesn't reach Luden's. It not giving mana is good, but that was never the issue. 13 seconds is too long for URF standards. Next. PD is a strong stat stick, yes, but generally burst is favored over sustained damage. When the 1.4 move speed Jin slides into your DMS and crits you for 2k, you don't really have the luxury to auto 4 times. Low B. The claw very powerful, belongs with the other dash mythics right behind Gale Force. Rabadons. The go-to for a P damage, let's just put that right behind IE. Randuin's Omen. Easy as a single use of this will teach all these ADC players their place. The 20 seconds cooldown does slightly hold it back, but this is usually the go-to armor option in URF. Rapid Fire Ekinen, yes, it has good stats, but so do almost all crit items. It has nothing to put itself above that. One auto usually only makes sense in very specific situations like on Jin. B. Ravenous Hydra doesn't really have a place. You want a D? Get IE. You want Omnivamp? No, you don't. D. Redemption. Theoretically strong global impact every 30 seconds. Then you look at the stats, 400 health heal unmodified by grievous wounds, yeah, no. In the trash. Riftmaker does exactly what you don't want to do, play the game of attrition. Rare cases like Warwick and Zac can make use of it, but you should ask yourself why? Why would you do that? Low C at best. Runan's Hurricane a must buy on most DCS, but falls into the sustained damage category, so no dice. Low B. Rylai's Crystal Scepter. Very toxic, yes, it's basically a Nash cosplay again, but for mages this time. Not bad, not good. The perma-slow can be game-changing or completely irrelevant. High C. Seraph's Embrace. The other tier item, I believe this one has potential, especially since most of the AP mythic grant mana, and stacking a tier isn't the most difficult thing in URF with Luden's. This thing grants 500 health, which can make you deceptively tanky. Serpent's Fang. Exist to punish cringy double support players. It doesn't matter if the effectiveness is slightly reduced. B tier. Seralda's Grudge feels almost always like a worse Lord Doms. The slow is cool, I guess, but feels like getting a pair of socks on Christmas. Let's leave it under Lord Doms. Ward item. Next. Shiolia's Battle Song. I'm sensing a pattern here. Worst turbo tank can be used for some interesting move speed shenanigans, but is it good? C tier. Sylvania Dawn, the other QSS item. If you take time to read it, these items grant vastly different additional effect on active, while the scimitar makes you faster. This one grants slow resistance and tenacity, making it even better at times. Clear S. Spirit Visage. You would expect me to hate on this thing, right? On the contrary, this thing is nuts. Obviously after the passive here, and the stats are decent enough to justify the buy. Unlike the few other support items. Don't be a fool, this thing scales with ability haste, and boy does it scale. A tier. Staff of Flowing Water, an on-ward support item. I guess it makes D tier. Strax belongs with Cringibo, be decent enough with a Spirit Visage. Stormers are the only crit item I would consider C tier. With the inflated URF economy, it's not the time to be a cheapskate. Get a real item. Streetbreaker. The Dethroned King. I still remember when everyone was abusing it. Imagine if they didn't remove the dash. It's the only one of these perma-slow items that's actually good, since it deals damage. It's just missing that 200 years umph that the god tiers have. Still S tier. Sunfire Aegis. There are some interesting tank funneling strategies where someone becomes unkillable. But the baseline is, its season 11 tanks are just assassins with balanced damage. D. Collector. Its stats are really good, but in a lot of cases the 5% isn't as impactful as people think. High B. Not a must-buy. Thorn Mail will always be good but not great. Another great example of item diversity when it comes to Riot's design philosophy. Gets outshined by Randuin's, but as a second buy, why not? Scales with the opponent's attack speed, so it gets a nice why are you killing yourself effect. Titanic Hydra. Slightly better than its brother as it scales better with attack speed, still isn't in a great spot. Low C. Trinity Force. Have we found it? An item that can compete? Perhaps surpass Sundara? What am I saying? Of course not, but it still puts up a good fight. High S. Turbo Tank, great if you want to play Mario Kart, not so great if you plan on dealing damage. There is an argument for A tier. I just said it exists, never said it was a good argument. Umbral Glaive. An anti-ward item in URF. Okay, if you want to piss off a Teemo, an ability that never gets activated doesn't scale that well with ability haste. Vigilant Wardstone. This one deserves an honorable mention. 12% stat scaling is incredible, and with that, purchasing items with ability haste isn't that bad. C tier. Void Staff Resistance Pen is very good, especially in the late game. You shouldn't underestimate base MR at level 30, but before that there is really no point. Build it as a counter option. B. Warmugs. Kinda obsolete when you have the cannon, can still be useful though for the HP. One thing you have to try is mathematically correct set in URF. Still suffers from the tank item stigma. C tier. Witsend sounds cool, is in reality underwhelming, just like playing League. 30 meters isn't gonna cut it, doesn't have a place between high damage like Nashor's or strong utility options. Low B. Ghost Blade, arguably the best item in the game right now. Now it has a 15-second cooldown. Easy S. Zeke's Convergence. Difficult to gauge support item, better than most, but how do you compare a dumpster to a dumpster fire? D tier. Zonya's Hourglass. You like having fun? Well, I don't. I don't want to put it up there because I don't want to see it in game, but you know where this thing goes. And with that it's finished. The URF grind set is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Use at your own discretion. Share with other URF enjoyers, comment on different opinions. On to the next video. Till then,